Sometimes it's the person no one notices who sees the most. Let us know in the comment section below, have you ever seen something others ignored and later realized it meant everything? She never told anyone about the scar behind her knee, the small, jagged one, just above where her calf muscle meets the curve of bone, a splinter of memory from Kandahar that hadn't healed right. You could only see it if the diner's uniform hiked too high when she crouched. Samantha Evans made sure it never did. Every shift at McKinley's diner followed the same beat. She poured coffee with a soldier's precision, swept floors with the muscle memory of a medic brushing blood from a gurney, and spoke to customers with a warmth that belied the steel wiring her insides. It had been 3 years since she'd left the Army, 2 since she'd come back home to Stillwater, 1 since she stopped waking up screaming. She didn't mind the repetition. Routine meant safety. Routine was her armor. So when the bell above the door rang and nothing unusual followed, no shouting, no screeching tires, no sudden drop in the temperature of the room, she kept wiping down the counter. It wasn't until she turned and saw him sitting there, all alone in the back booth, that her fingers froze. He couldn't have been more than 10. Pale, thin, with a buzz cut that looked done with kitchen scissors. One hand clutched a tattered backpack. The other hovered near a half-empty glass of water someone must have given him before she noticed. No adult sat near him, no plate, no order. Samantha blinked. "Doña," she called over her shoulder. "Who sat the kid in booth 5? Donna McKinley leaned out from the kitchen pass window, wiping her hands on a rag. "What kid?" Samantha looked again. Still there. "In the back corner," she said, her voice sharper now. "Boy. Sitting alone." Donna's brows creased. "Thought he came with the couple that left 20 minutes ago. You saying he's still there?" Samantha was already moving toward him. Her sneakers made no sound on the scuffed tile. He didn't flinch when she approached, just kept staring down at the condensation sliding off his glass like it held secrets. Up close, she could see the hollowness under his eyes, the dirt under his fingernails. Not recent. Built up. Lived in. She crouched beside the booth, careful to keep her tone light. "Hey there, you doing okay?" He nodded, quick and small. "You waiting on someone?" A beat, then another nod. She smiled gently. "Mind if I sit with you for a second?" This time, no response. But he didn't say no, either. She slid in across from him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Samantha asked, "You hungry?" His eyes flicked to hers, wide, cautious. But again, no refusal. She stood, waved toward Donna. "Get me a burger. Fries, and whatever pie's left." Donna hesitated, her voice dropping. "Sam, you know we can't just—" "Put it on mine," Samantha said, not turning around. When she returned to the booth, the boy had shifted slightly. Still on guard, but watching her now. "You got a name?" she asked. His lips parted, but no sound came out. She didn't press. "Mine's Sam," she said. "Well, Samantha, but everyone calls me Sam. Used to be Sergeant Evans, though. That was back when I wore boots heavier than your whole body." That got the smallest twitch at the corner of his mouth. Not quite a smile, but close. She kept going, her voice soft like wind moving through dry grass. "Want to know a secret?" she said. "I can still take apart an M4 rifle blindfolded in under a minute, but I forget where I park my car almost every day." The burger arrived 10 minutes later, cut in half. She placed the plate between them without a word. He stared at it for a second, then pulled it toward him and ate like he thought she might take it away. Samantha didn't speak. She just watched, because something wasn't right. The boy didn't talk, didn't ask for ketchup, didn't touch the fries until the burger was gone. His eyes kept darting to the windows, the exits. And he flinched, actually flinched, when a truck backfired outside. That's when the knot in her chest tightened. She'd seen that before, overseas, in shelters, in rescue tents. This wasn't just a kid who got separated from a family member. This was a kid who was running. When he finally looked up at her again, she asked, "You want to tell me where you're from?" His eyes filled with something almost like panic, and he shook his head hard. She held up both hands. "Okay," she said calmly. "Not pushing, just trying to help." The bell rang again. Samantha's head snapped up. A man in a flannel jacket and boots walked in, glanced around, then sat at the counter without a word. The boy had gone rigid. She leaned closer. "You know him?" The boy's breathing sped up, but he didn't nod. He didn't have to. "Stay here," she whispered. "Okay? Just for a minute." He didn't move. Samantha stood, crossed the floor, and poured a cup of coffee she didn't intend to serve. Then she walked past the man slowly, studying his hands. One knuckle scraped raw, dirt under his nails, a hunting knife clipped to his belt. He didn't look at her. She looped around back toward the kitchen and leaned in close to Donna. "Call the sheriff," she said, her voice low. "Tell him I got a situation." Donna stared. "You serious?" "I've got a boy in my booth who's scared to death of that guy," Samantha whispered. "And I'm betting he didn't walk here alone." Donna's face went pale. "So, I've got it, just call." When she turned back toward the floor, the man at the counter was gone. And the boy? So was he. But the door hadn't opened, and the only sound now was the rumble of engines pulling into the lot. Black, window-tinted, 4 of them. SUV. Samantha didn't hesitate. She sprinted for the back room and reached for the emergency key Donna kept under the register. She didn't know who they were, yet, but she knew one thing for sure. That boy wasn't safe, and now neither was she. The back office smelled like old receipts and desperation. Samantha slammed the door shut behind her and flipped the bolt. Her fingers flew across the old keypad mounted beside the breaker box. 1942. Donna's father's service year. The lock clacked open and she yanked the drawer. Inside, an emergency cell, burner style, and a sawed-off shotgun wrapped in an oil rag. Samantha grabbed the phone first. 1 bar. Maybe 2 if she held it toward the ceiling like Donna always muttered about. Her thumb hovered over the contacts. She didn't know the sheriff's number by heart. No one did anymore. But the phone had 1 number saved. "Nick," she whispered, "please tell me you haven't changed this." She pressed call. The dial tone clicked once, then twice. Then, "Samantha?" His voice came through rough and half asleep, like gravel in a coffee grinder. "Mick, listen to me. I've got a situation." "Where are you?" "McKinley's." A kid came in, alone, maybe 10, scared out of his mind. Then a guy walks in, he panics, and now they're both gone. Silence on the line, not even breathing. Then, "What do you see now?" Samantha moved to the window. She pulled back the edge of the sun-bleached curtain just an inch. "They're here. 4 black SUVs, parked tight, tinted. Not local. They're not even pretending." "You said they? How many?" "Can't tell yet. Windows are up, engines still running." "They're moving fast," Mick said. She could hear paper rustling. "They must have had eyes on him before he got to you. He's on the run, from someone serious." Samantha looked back at the tiny room. No way out except the kitchen exit, which dumped into the lot behind the same SUVs. No sign of the boy. No signal from Donna. She felt a tremor in her stomach, not fear. Calculation. "I'm not armed," she said. "You're lying," Mick replied immediately. Samantha smiled grimly. "Fine. I'm not well armed. Got a scattergun and bad lighting." A pause, then, "I'll be there in 20. Stay hidden. Do not engage unless you have to." "I can handle myself." "I know you can. That's what worries me." The call ended. Samantha pocketed the phone and wrapped the shotgun in a dish towel, tucking it under her arm like a tray. She slid the bolt and stepped into the hallway. The diner had gone dead quiet. No voices, no clatter of plates, not even Donna's usual nervous shuffling. She advanced slowly, scanning corners, eyes tracing every reflection in the polished steel and coffee pots. Nothing seemed disturbed, until she spotted the back booth. Empty, but not undisturbed. The backpack was still there. She moved fast and silent, dropped into the booth and yanked it toward her. Inside, a half-empty juice box, some torn comic pages, and jammed between a broken zipper and the canvas seam, a folded dog-eared photograph. 2 people, a man and a woman, mid-30s, smiling at the camera, standing in front of what looked like a Jeep. The man had his hand on a boy's shoulder, the same boy who'd been in her booth. His face was cleaner in the photo, less gaunt, but it was him. And the man beside him? She'd seen that face before. Training bulletins, military briefings. Victor Hayes. Discharged 3 years ago from a private contractor group that operated in conflict zones with murky jurisdiction. Not technically dishonorably discharged, but blacklisted. Rumors of trafficking, disappearances, falsified clearance. Nothing ever pinned down. Samantha's stomach turned. She pocketed the photo just as the front door creaked open. Not the bell. Her hand, slowly pushing it open. No announcement, no intention of pretending. Samantha dropped low, crawled beneath the booth, and watched through the crack under the vinyl seats. 1 pair of boots, then another, and 2 more. 4 men. Spread formation, sweep pattern. They were trained. She slid out the far side of the booth and crouched low behind the counter, just high enough to see the men. Black jackets, matching comm earpieces, tactical pants not sold at any Walmart within 100 miles. Not locals, not friends. The lead man, taller, shaved head, scar over his right brow, moved with purpose. Not searching. Tracking. One of the others spoke. "You sure he came in here?" "Was spotted across the highway, heading toward the neon sign," the lead said. "Only building lit up." They fanned out. One moved behind the counter. Another started checking the bathrooms. The last took point near the door, blocking the exit. Then the last man entered. Not dressed like the others. Slower. Taller. Wearing a pressed blazer, no tie. His presence pulled the others into silence. Samantha didn't need to guess who he was. Victor Hayes. He walked like the diner was already his. She could hear Donna now, her voice trembling. "I already told them. I didn't see a boy, just customers." Hayes smiled. "I believe you, ma'am," he said with the slow, friendly drawl of someone who'd practiced sounding nice. "But sometimes folks forget details until they're reminded." He picked up a ketchup bottle and examined it like it was alien. "You serve a lot of kids here?" Donna didn't answer. "Let me rephrase. You see a boy. Thin, dusty blonde hair. Might have been scared. Might have been looking for a place to hide." Samantha's grip tightened on the wrapped shotgun. Donna exhaled. I don't remember." Hayes nodded like a teacher hearing the wrong answer. "You know what happens when kids disappear?" he asked her gently. Donna blinked. "They stay disappeared, the world forgets them. No headlines, no prayers, just silence." He leaned in. "And I don't like silence." That's when Samantha moved. She rose, silent as shadow, and pointed the barrel across the counter. "And you're in the wrong damn diner." The room froze. All eyes turned. Hayes didn't blink. His men turned as one, weapons drawn but not fired. "I was wondering when you'd show yourself," Hayes said calmly. "Sergeant Evans." Her finger tensed on the trigger. "You know me? I make it a point to know everyone who meddles in my business." "You mean helping a starving kid escape whatever hell you dragged him out of?" Hayes tilted his head. "That boy doesn't belong to you." Samantha cocked the shotgun. "He doesn't belong to you, either." The air thickened. One of the men took a step forward. Hayes held up a hand. "Let's not do this here," he said smoothly. "You want to protect him? Fine. Just know you're inviting something bigger than you can handle." "I've handled bigger." "I don't think you have." Samantha didn't move. Hayes gave her one last look, half respect, half warning, then motioned to his men. "Let's go." They filed out, boots heavy against tile, and disappeared into the night. The door shut. Only then did Samantha lower the shotgun. Only then did she breathe. Donna emerged from behind the kitchen wall, white as flour. Samantha looked back at the booth. The backpack was gone. So was the boy. But the photo in her pocket told her one thing. This wasn't over. And whoever Victor Hayes really was, hadn't come for a boy. He'd come for a secret. And Samantha had just stepped right into it. The boy was fast. Samantha barely saw the back exit shift before the door flung wide and smacked the side of the building. She dropped the shotgun on the counter and bolted after him, her shoes hitting the tile like drumbeats. Donna shouted something behind her, but it vanished beneath the ringing in her ears and the sound of blood rushing between her temples. She crashed through the back door into the alley, empty save for the boy's silhouette halfway up the side street. Aiden, that was his name. She'd seen it scrawled on the edge of the photograph, almost invisible in the fold. His little legs pumped like he hadn't eaten in days, but still ran like survival was the only meal he needed. He darted past the dumpster, across gravel, through the gap between the diner and the shuttered bar next door. Samantha sprinted after him. "Aiden," she called out, trying not to spook him further. "Aiden, it's me." The name stopped him cold. He turned, his chest heaving, arms tense like a cornered animal. She approached slowly, hands raised, her voice as calm as she could make it. "I saw the photo," she said. "I know your name now." His fingers gripped the strap of his bag like it was a lifeline. "I wasn't going to let them take you," she said. "You ran, I get it. But you need to come back. They'll sweep this whole town." "I didn't mean to bring them," he whispered, barely audible. I thought if I just sat quiet, they wouldn't find me." "They're professionals. They have eyes everywhere." Aiden's lip trembled. "They killed my mom." Samantha's breath caught. He looked down at the gravel. She tried to leave him. She got a new job. Changed her name. Took me with her. I thought we were safe, but he found her. I saw it happen. I hid under the bed. Samantha crouched, one knee down in the dirt. "You don't have to say any more," she told him softly. "He's not my dad," Aiden whispered. He just said that a lot, but he's not really." Samantha didn't press. She offered her hand instead. "We've got to move," she said. He hesitated, then took her hand. They cut across the alley toward the back of the old VFW hall. Samantha scanned for headlights, movement, anything. The street was quiet, but it wouldn't stay that way. Hayes hadn't retreated. He'd regrouped. She could feel it in her bones. Aiden tugged at her sleeve. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere he won't follow." "You know a place?" Samantha nodded. "The Armory." It was 3 miles across town, on the edge of the industrial district, built in the 50s and barely maintained. Most folks didn't even realize it was still registered. But she'd been through those doors before. It was the only place nearby with reinforced locks, blacked-out windows, and a back room stocked with emergency rations for the volunteer guard. They took the old rail path, overgrown but hidden. Aiden didn't speak again for 15 minutes. Not until the overpass gave way to the cracked asphalt lot behind the Armory gates. Samantha pulled the key card from her wallet. It had expired last year, but she knew the override. Old habits die hard. The lock clicked. She pulled Aiden inside. The lights flickered on after a delay, buzzing faintly. Rows of rusted lockers and retired cots filled the main room. It smelled like dust and old oil, but it was solid. Safe. Aiden dropped his backpack and collapsed onto one of the benches, the weight of everything hitting him all at once. Samantha locked the door behind them, then double-bolted it. She flipped the security monitor's screen on, thankful it still ran off local feed. One camera covered the entrance, another the rear fence. All clear. "You okay?" she asked, kneeling beside him. He nodded, but he wasn't. She could see it, in the stillness of his hands, the flatness in his eyes. "I should have stopped him," he whispered. "I should have screamed, or I don't know. I should have done something." "You were a kid," she said. "You survived. That's everything. I didn't used to be scared of him, but then I found stuff." "What kind of stuff?" He reached into his backpack and pulled out a USB drive, no bigger than a thumbnail. "Yes." Samantha took it gently. Aiden kept it hidden in a book. "I think it's why my mom tried to leave. She found it too." She turned it over in her fingers. "You read it?" "No, but my mom did. She said it was proof of something. She said we had to go far, like witness protection far." Samantha's mouth went dry. She reached for the old laptop stashed behind the counter. Power still worked. She booted it up, plugged the drive in, and clicked through the folders. Encrypted files, surveillance logs, names, photos, maps. One folder labeled OP Sender, Internal Assets. Her screen filled with documents marked classified. Not military. Private defense contractor. Task force info. Contractor IDs, locations. Then she saw it. Victor Hayes. Tier 3 assets. Civilian blacklist protocols. The file listed over a dozen civilian names. Half of them had deceased stamped across their record. Another 4 were marked missing. And at the bottom, Andrea Brooks. Terror. Samantha's stomach dropped. Andrea Brooks, Aiden's mother. The boy hadn't been lying. She turned back to him. He was watching her, silent but pleading for something, for this to matter. "You did good," she said, her voice breaking. He nodded once, like it was all he needed to hear. Then the security monitor blipped. "Whitman, front gate. 4 men. Same black jackets. 2 moved to flank the building. 1 stayed by the van. The last, taller, blazer, stood still. Victor Hayes." "They're here," she whispered. Aiden flinched. Samantha shut the laptop and slipped the USB into her boot. She moved fast, flicked off the lights, and crouched beside Aiden. "You remember the emergency crawl space?" Hayden blinked. "What?" She pointed to the floor panel under the supply shelf. "All through. Comes out 2 blocks north by the old junkyard fence. On stopping recovery. Where will you be?" "Right behind you." It was a lie, but it was necessary. She helped him lift the panel and slide inside. As he began crawling through the dark space, she whispered after him, "You stay hidden. You stay quiet. You hear me?" He nodded, eyes wide, and then disappeared into the dark. The panel dropped shut. Samantha turned back to the door just as the first blow shook the hinges. She chambered the shotgun, stepped into the middle of the room, and stared at the door. She'd faced worse than this. But this time, she wasn't just fighting to survive. She was fighting for someone else. And that made all the difference. The first hit rattled the frame. Samantha stood her ground, shotgun pressed to her shoulder, one eye on the lock, the other on the monitor. The infrared lens flickered with movement. Hayes's men had fanned out, circling the building like wolves. The old armory had thick walls, but not military grade. One charge, or enough brute force, and they'd be inside. She exhaled slowly through her nose. She didn't have enough shells to take them all down. But she didn't need to win. She just needed to stall. A second crash. Then a third. The door creaked, bending inward with each blow. Metal groaned like it remembered being strong, but time had worn it down. Samantha backed up 3 steps, planted her feet behind an overturned cot, and braced for impact. Then silence. She held her breath. A new sound, different, a low hum. tires on gravel. The monitor blinked again. Second vehicle, old, tan, civilian plates. The feed showed him step out slowly, unarmed, hands raised. He looked like hell, sleep-deprived, sweat-soaked, but his eyes were calm, steady, military calm, the kind that made men pause. Hayes appeared in the frame, his silhouette unmistakable. He motioned to two of his men, who approached Mick with caution, weapons aimed center mass. Mick didn't flinch. His voice was muffled through the monitor speaker, but Samantha could make out fragments. "You don't want to do this. Step away. I know what you're here for. We're here for what's ours. He's not yours." A pause. Then Hayes said something sharp, fast. Or the men shoved Mick hard, forcing him to his knees. Samantha's grip on the shotgun tightened. She wanted to run out there, to blast through the door and shove steel into someone's chest, but she couldn't. Aiden was still crawling through the shaft. A noise outside would send him back. A new voice came through the speaker, clear, direct, authoritative. "Enough." All heads turned. Even Samantha leaned closer to the screen. Another SUV had pulled in, this one sleek, government plates. Two men stepped out wearing tactical vests, no patches, but the energy was obvious. Federal. They held up badges, not police. Not local. Homeland. The field shifted. Hayes took one step toward them, but one of the agents raised a hand. "Victor Hayes, step away from the vehicle and kneel. Now." "You have no jurisdiction here," Hayes growled. "We do now," the agent said. "And you're standing in violation of federal statutes involving unauthorized civilian pursuit, conspiracy to traffic a minor, and obstruction of justice." That did it. Hayes lunged toward his vehicle, but the agents were faster. One tackled him to the ground, the other pulled out cuffs and pinned him. His men raised weapons but froze the moment half a dozen more agents rounded the corner, all in body armor, all locked and loaded. Within seconds it was over. Samantha watched Hayes's face as they dragged him upright. No rage, no panic, just cold calculation, like a man who couldn't believe he'd finally lost. The monitor showed Mick stand slowly. One of the agents helped him up. He gestured toward the building. That was her signal. Samantha lowered the shotgun and ran to the back of the room. She flung open the crawlspace hatch and reached in. "Aiden," she called. "It's safe now. Come on, kid." Silence for 2 heartbeats. Then she saw the faint movement of his shoes as he crawled backward. His small hands gripped the edge, and she pulled him the rest of the way out. His eyes were wide, filled with the kind of fear that didn't go away easily. "Are they gone?" "They're not just gone," Samantha said. "They're in cuffs." He stared at her, unsure whether to believe. She knelt down. "You did it. You stayed quiet. You held out. That was brave, ain't it?" His shoulders relaxed for the first time since she'd met him. Footsteps thundered down the hall. Mick appeared in the doorway, bruised and battered, but grinning through it all. "You always had a flair for the dramatic," he said. Samantha raised an eyebrow. "You're one to talk." His eyes dropped to Aiden, who was still clutching her arm. "You must be the reason my phone rang at 3 a.m, Mick said with a smile. Aiden blinked at him, then gave a small nod. Mick reached into his coat and pulled out a worn dog tag. He pressed it into Aiden's palm. "From one survivor to another," he said. "Keep it. You earned it." Aiden gripped it tight, eyes wet, but didn't speak. That night the armory flooded with lights, emergency responders, agents, child services. Donna even showed up after seeing the news flash on her phone, tears in her eyes, holding a box of fried chicken she insisted was for morale. Samantha gave her a one-armed hug and sent her back home before sunrise. By morning, Aiden had been checked by medics and confirmed safe. Samantha refused to leave his side through the process. The boy didn't ask for her to stay, but his hand never let go of hers, so she didn't offer. A woman from Federal Child Protection Services approached, clipboard in hand. "We've been trying to track his case for weeks," she explained. "Once the mother filed a report, everything unraveled, but we were too late to protect her. Your interference stopped it from getting worse." Samantha shook her head. "It shouldn't take this much." "No," the woman agreed. "It shouldn't." After some silence, she added, "There's a shelter north of here. Good people. Quiet. He'll be safe until we locate the right long-term placement." Samantha looked down at Aidan, who had curled up beside her on the armory bench, his eyes fluttering with the pull of sleep. "You sure that's what's best?" she asked. The woman paused. "You have someone in mind?" Samantha didn't answer, but her mind was already made up. 2 weeks later, the paperwork cleared. The living room of Samantha's tiny home smelled like fresh coffee and cinnamon rolls. Donna had brought over a second-hand couch. Mick was fixing the fence out back. Aidan's backpack now hung on a hook beside Samantha's jacket. Cleaned, patched, and retired. Aidan sat at the kitchen table, a comic book in one hand and a chocolate milk in the other. His shoes were off, feet swinging just above the floor. He still didn't talk much, but he smiled more now. "Hey," Samantha called from the kitchen. "You ever play Go Fish?" He looked up. A small smile crept across his face. He nodded. She slid into the seat across from him and started dealing cards. Outside, the sun pushed through the clouds. Peaceful, real. For the first time in a long time, Samantha felt something unfamiliar in her chest. Not a house, not a duty, a real breathing thing. Aidan looked at his hand of cards, then at her. "At your turn," he whispered. Samantha smiled. She picked up her cards, leaned back in her chair, and said, "Got any 3?" And just like that, they began,